Have you ever wondered why some men seem to have this mysterious power over women? A power so strong that she can't stop thinking about him, even when he's silent, even when he's gone. What if I told you? There's a method so dark, so forbidden, that even Niccolò Machiavelli himself warned about its danger. Yet when used with Stoic wisdom, it becomes the ultimate secret to making her obsessively chase you without realizing it. Before we dive deep into this ancient art of power and psychology, make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, and watch this video till the very end, because what you're about to learn can completely transform how women see you, respect you, and desire you. The dark method begins. The power of controlled chaos. Machiavelli once wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." But what if? The secret isn't to make her fear you, but to respect your unpredictability. Imagine this, a man named Adrian, calm, intelligent, emotionally grounded. His girlfriend was used to men who constantly texted her, begged for her attention, and folded at every emotional test. But Adrian was different. He was warm, yet distant, caring, yet unbothered, present, yet hard to read. At first, she thought he wasn't interested, but slowly, she began thinking about him more and more. She'd text him, and he'd reply hours later, not to play games, but because he was busy living. She started wondering, who is he thinking about? Why doesn't he need me like others did? And that's when the obsession began. This, my friend, is Machiavelli's darkest method when combined with Marcus Aurelius's Stoic detachment. It's not manipulation, it's emotional discipline. It's when you create controlled chaos, where she can't predict you, can't read you, and that mystery becomes her addiction. 1. Master emotional stillness, the Stoic foundation. Have you ever been in that situation where you liked someone so deeply that every text from her made your heart race, but every minute of silence from her felt like torture? You couldn't eat, couldn't focus. You just waited, hoping she'd notice you again. Be honest, we've all been there. That endless mental loop of, did I say something wrong? Why isn't she replying? Maybe she doesn't care anymore. And in those moments, without realizing it, you gave away your greatest power, your emotional control. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine a version of you that doesn't get shaken by silence. A man who, even when she pulls away, remains calm, grounded, unreadable. That's emotional stillness, the art of being unbothered, no matter what storm is happening around you. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." He meant that the moment you control your emotions, you control everything. Let me tell you a story. There was a man named Ethan. He loved a woman who always tested him, emotionally distant one day, overly affectionate the next. At first, he reacted to everything. When she ignored him, he panicked. When she flirted with others, he argued, and slowly, she lost respect for him. Until one day, Ethan stopped chasing. He became still. He didn't argue, didn't beg, didn't explain. He simply focused on himself, his work, his body, his purpose. And that's when everything changed. She started chasing him, calling, wondering, obsessing. Because when a man stops reacting, a woman starts reflecting. Emotional stillness isn't coldness, it's magnetic power. It's when your calm drives her curiosity and your mystery becomes her addiction. That's how you begin to master her attention, by first mastering yourself. 2. Create scarcity through presence, the art of being missed. Have you ever given too much of yourself to someone? You texted first, waited for hours, cancelled your plans just to see her, and deep down, you thought the more available you were, the more she'd appreciate you. But instead, she started taking you for granted. It hurts, doesn't it? You gave her everything, your time, your attention, your energy, and she gave you silence. But here's the truth that few men ever learn. What is always available loses its value. Think about it. When was the last time you truly appreciated something that was always there? You don't crave the air you breathe because it's everywhere, but take it away for just a few seconds, and suddenly, it becomes the most important thing in the world. That's how presence works in attraction. It's not about how much you give, but how rare you make your presence feel. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. In other words, your peace, your energy, your time, they're sacred. And not everyone deserves access to them." Now picture this, a man named Daniel. He used to be available for his girlfriend every single moment. If she called, he answered. If she wanted to hang out, he dropped everything. But over time, she lost that spark. Why? Because his presence became predictable, like background noise. One day, Daniel decided to pull back. Not as a game, but as a statement of self-worth. He stopped replying instantly. He spent more time on his goals, his gym, his business. And suddenly, she started asking, "Where have you been?" She missed the very thing she once took for granted. His presence. Machiavelli would call this strategic scarcity, the art of creating value by becoming less accessible. When you make your attention something she must earn, she starts to invest emotionally. Your absence becomes louder than your words, and your silence becomes magnetic. So don't fear distance, use it. Because when a woman realizes she doesn't have unlimited access to you, she starts fighting for every moment she gets. And that's when your presence turns into her obsession. 3. The forbidden charm, power through uncertainty. Have you ever noticed how the people you can never fully read, the ones who keep a bit of mystery, always stay in your mind longer? You keep replaying their words, wondering what they meant, why they acted that way, and whether they care or not. That uncertainty, that tension, it hooks you. Now imagine what happens when you become that mystery, when she can't quite figure you out. When one moment you're warm and present, and the next, calm and untouchable, she starts to crave your attention like a secret she can't solve. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." What he meant is this: control what you give away, and never let your emotions leak into your actions. That control creates power, and that power creates uncertainty. Let me tell you a story. There was a man named Adrian. He was always too honest with women, not in a bad way, but in a desperate way. He'd say, "I really like you. I want something serious. I can't stop thinking about you." And though his words were genuine, they took away all the mystery. She knew she had him completely. No chase, no curiosity, just certainty. Then Adrian learned something profound. People don't crave certainty. They crave emotional suspense. So he stopped explaining how he felt all the time. He became more composed, more unpredictable. Sometimes he'd text her first. Sometimes he wouldn't. Sometimes he'd listen quietly instead of always trying to impress her. And guess what happened? She started chasing him. Why? Because she could feel his interest, but she couldn't define it. That's the forbidden charm, the Machiavellian edge. To stay close enough for her to feel you, but distant enough for her to wonder. Machiavelli wrote that men must be either won over or destroyed, meaning people either chase what they can't control or lose interest in what they fully possess. Uncertainty isn't manipulation, it's mastery. It's the art of letting her imagination do the chasing. So don't reveal everything. Don't tell her every thought, every plan, every emotion. Let her guess. Let her wonder what you're thinking when you look at her and smile quietly. Let her imagination work for you. Because once she starts imagining, she's already emotionally invested. And that's when she begins to hunt you down. Not because you begged for her attention, but because your uncertainty became her addiction. 4. Detach to dominate emotionally. Have you ever loved someone so much that you lost yourself in the process? You started doing things just to keep her happy, even when you felt unseen. You forgave things you shouldn't have, ignored red flags, and convinced yourself that maybe she'll change. But deep down, you knew you weren't leading that relationship anymore. You were being led by emotion. We've all been there. And that's exactly where power dies, not because you loved, but because you attached. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You become what you give your attention to." When your attention revolves around her, what she's doing, who she's texting, how she feels, your entire emotional world starts to orbit hers. You become reactive, not reflective. And that's how you lose emotional dominance. Now imagine this. There's a man named Leo. He loved a woman deeply, but she played games, ignoring messages, acting distant, testing him. At first, Leo tried harder. He explained, he apologized, he chased. But the more he did, the colder she became. Until one day, Leo snapped. Not in anger, in awareness. He realized that the strongest position in any relationship isn't control over her emotions. It's control over your own. He stopped seeking closure, stopped explaining his worth, stopped needing her validation. And something unexpected happened. She started chasing him. That's the paradox. The moment you detach, you become magnetic. Because detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you don't cling. It means you've learned to love without losing yourself. Machiavelli would say, "He who depends on others loses himself." Stoicism and Machiavellian psychology both teach that real power isn't in chasing outcomes. It's in being unbothered by them. When she feels that your peace doesn't depend on her approval, when she senses that your happiness isn't controlled by her affection, she feels something she can't explain: respect, curiosity, and fear of losing you. Detachment isn't coldness, it's emotional sovereignty. It's knowing that even if she leaves, you remain whole. And when you radiate that kind of strength, she doesn't just admire you, she submits to the gravity of your calm. Remember this: a man who can walk away at any time never has to, because emotional detachment is what makes her chase your peace, since deep down, she's never felt that kind of power before. 5. Build power through purpose. Let me ask you something real. Brother, have you ever noticed how, when your life lacks direction, your relationships start to fall apart too? You begin to overthink every little text, worry about her opinion, and tie your mood to how she feels about you. But when you're focused on your mission, when your mind is consumed by building something meaningful, and suddenly you stop chasing and people start chasing you. That's not coincidence. That's energy. Marcus Aurelius lived this truth. He said, "A man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions." He was an emperor, a philosopher, and a man who faced endless pressure, yet he never lost himself to emotion. Why? Because his life had a clear purpose that anchored him. Now let's bring this into something you've probably felt before. Think back to the last time you were really passionate about something, a goal, a dream, maybe a project you were building. Remember how you carried yourself then? You walked differently. You spoke with conviction. You didn't need validation because your eyes were fixed on something greater than approval. That's the kind of energy that pulls women in like gravity. Let me tell you about a man named Armin. For years he chased love. He wanted someone to complete him, to make him feel alive. But every relationship ended the same way, with disappointment. Until one day, he stopped chasing women and started chasing purpose. He got serious about his career, his fitness, his self-mastery. And soon the same women who once overlooked him started noticing him again. Why? Because his focus made him rare. His mission made him magnetic. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He wrote that a leader without purpose is prey to every emotion. When you stand for something greater than her, when your ambition commands your energy, you stop being predictable. You stop being ordinary. Women are not obsessed with men who need them. They're obsessed with men who inspire them. A man on a mission is dangerous because his love isn't his weakness. It's his strength. He doesn't beg for attention. He earns admiration. He doesn't lose himself in a relationship. He brings her into his world. So if you want her to chase you, stop making her the purpose. Build your empire. Strengthen your body. Master your craft. Because when your energy moves toward growth, she'll want to move with you. Remember this: when a man follows his purpose, the world and every woman in it starts following him. 6. The power of silence. How many times have you tried to explain yourself to someone who didn't even care to understand? You kept talking, hoping your words would change how she felt, trying to prove your worth, trying to fix the situation with logic or emotion. But the more you spoke, the less she listened. It's painful, isn't it? Because deep down, you wanted her to see the real you, the loyal you, the man who genuinely cared. But in that flood of words, you gave away something precious, your mystery. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Silence is a lesson learned from the many sufferings of life." Because silence, my friend, is not emptiness. It's power. It's control. It's confidence without needing to prove anything. Let me tell you a story. There was a man named Noah. He loved deeply, and like most of us, he expressed everything. When she was distant, he asked what was wrong. When she ignored him, he tried harder. When she tested him, he defended himself. And every time he did, he lost a little more of her respect. Not because he was wrong, but because he became predictable. Then, one day, he stopped reacting. When she pulled away, he said nothing. When she tried to trigger him, he smiled calmly. When she expected him to argue, he simply walked away. And that's when something strange happened. She started to feel his silence. She began wondering, did I go too far? Why isn't he reacting? What is he thinking? His quietness became louder than any words he could have spoken. Machiavelli would call this strategic silence, the ability to make people reveal themselves while you remain unreadable. Silence disarms manipulation. It flips the power dynamic, because when you don't react, you force her to face herself. Remember, silence isn't about ignoring her. It's about mastering your emotional language. A calm man who speaks only when necessary sends a stronger message than one who argues endlessly. It's not your explanations that change people. It's your absence of reaction that unsettles them. When you stop feeding her ego with constant reassurance, she starts craving your validation. When you stop over-explaining, she starts overthinking. When you stop chasing, she starts feeling your silence. Marcus Aurelius said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." So hold your peace like a weapon. Don't let every emotion pull you into reaction. Because a silent man radiates mystery, power, and control. And the moment she realizes your silence isn't anger, it's mastery, she'll chase that calm. Because deep down, she's never met a man who didn't need to prove himself with words. That's the power of silence. When you stop speaking to be heard, you start being felt. 7. The illusion of choice. Do you really think she's choosing you? Or are you choosing how she perceives her choices? This, my friend, is one of Machiavelli's most forbidden truths. People rarely make free choices. They choose between the options you've presented to them. And that's what gives a man quiet power. See, most men think love is about begging for attention, persuading her to stay, or chasing validation. But the truly powerful man, the Stoic, the Machiavellian thinker, understands that control doesn't come from dominance. It comes from direction. Let me tell you a story. There was a man named Adrian, calm, confident, observant. He met a woman who was used to control. She tested him, played her emotional games, and made him feel like he had to win her. But Adrian didn't chase. He never begged for time or affection. Instead, he created a world where she had to decide, not between him and another man, but between his energy and emptiness. He gave her space but not distance. He gave her attention but never on demand. He became a mystery wrapped in calm, a man who could walk away at any moment without hesitation. And slowly, she began to fall into his rhythm. She started to choose him, but here's the secret. It wasn't a choice at all. It was an illusion. He had already shaped the environment in such a way that he was the only emotionally safe, stable, and intriguing option left. He wasn't manipulating her. He was leading the dance. Machiavelli wrote, "Men are driven by two principal impulses, either by love or by fear." In relationships, it's not about scaring her. It's about creating emotional gravity. When you become grounded, unbothered, and intentional, she starts orbiting around your frame without even realizing it. The illusion of choice means you no longer chase. You influence. You give her two paths. One leads toward you, peace, strength, and emotional depth. The other back to chaos, uncertainty, and the shallow world she once knew. And when a woman feels the difference, when she realizes that your presence makes her calm, focused, and alive, she chooses you. But deep down, it was never really a choice. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That's the Stoic side of this principle. When you master yourself, you unconsciously master the environment, and when you master the environment, you don't need to control her decisions. You simply guide them. So remember this. Never beg for her time. Create moments she craves. Never demand her loyalty. Inspire it. Never force love. Make it feel like her idea. Because in the end, the man who controls the frame controls the game. That's the illusion of choice, where she believes she's choosing freely. But every path she takes still leads right back to you. 8. The magnetism of self-control. Have you ever noticed that the moment you stop chasing someone, they suddenly start noticing you more? It's strange, right? You could text them every day, call them, try to make plans, and they barely respond. But the second you pull back, go quiet, focus on yourself, suddenly they're curious again. That, my friend, is not a coincidence. It's the magnetism of self-control, one of the most powerful forces a man can possess. You see, women are instinctively drawn to emotional strength. They crave stability in a world of chaos, and nothing signals true strength more than a man who's in full command of his emotions, his desires, and his reactions. When a man doesn't overreact, when he doesn't chase after validation, when he stays calm even when he's tested, that's when she feels something she can't quite explain. It's attraction. But 10. Disappear at your peak. Now here's the final, forbidden move. The one that makes her obsessively hunt you down. When her interest peaks, when she feels closest, vanish. Not forever. Just long enough for her to feel your absence. Marcus Aurelius said, "Think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now take what's left and live it properly." In other words, detach from comfort, even emotional comfort. When you walk away at your strongest moment, you plant a powerful seed, uncertainty. She'll replay every moment in her head, every silence, every word, wondering why she can't stop thinking about you. That's not cruelty. That's power through discipline. And when you return, her desire will multiply, because absence makes the mysterious man unforgettable. So remember this. Machiavelli's darkest and most forbidden method isn't manipulation. It's mastery over self. It's the art of creating emotional gravity where people are pulled toward your energy, not because you beg for it, but because you embody it. When you combine Stoic calm with Machiavellian awareness, you become the man every woman thinks about, but few ever truly understand. And with that said, thanks for watching, and until next time,